Is it everything you hoped for?
Jury's still out. But man, you can't deny that view.
So what's up everybody, welcome back to the channel, and I'm a little bit late to the party on this one because I've been doing this office out as a bit of a workspace, but now it's complete, I can get back into what I'm wanting to do. Episode 3 of The Last of Us is about to drop, so I'm just going to go over 1 and 2. HBO have completely delivered like we knew they would. Let's look at it, let's look at the Easter eggs, look at what I feel about it, a few other parallels to the game. So straight away, one of the things I love about this show is how they're opening these episodes, episode 1 and 2. Like the 1960s thing with John Anna explaining the cordyceps virus in fungus and how it could potentially grow into humans, and he kind of sets up the scene, he fills the audience with dread.
So if that happens, we lose.
And also in episode 2 you see the thing in Indonesia, how it started, and the workers at the flour mill, and there's a mycologist played by a really good Indonesian actress, Christine Hakim.
Bom seluruh kota dan seluruh orang yang ada di dalamnya.
But if you want to delve into some of that real life stuff, I'll put a couple of links in description. There's a BBC Planet Earth where it explains the cordyceps and everything in insects, and also there was a Joe Rogan podcast about 3 years ago with a guy called Paul Stamets, who's a real life mycologist, just as Christina Hakim is in episode 2. He's talking about cordyceps with Joe Rogan, and I'll put them links in description. It's quite interesting if you're into that.
Spores from a parasitic fungus called cordyceps have infiltrated their bodies and their minds.
They've done a wonderful job with opening credits, but going straight into it, I think character-wise, Nico Parker plays Sarah beautifully. The first, obviously, like half an hour of the game, it's showing you her day from the beginning, and there's loads of Easter eggs in there. Like you've got like little football photographs on the wall. She's opened the curtains and you can see the dust, which is obviously, in my opinion, representing spores, which is not in the show. They've replaced spores with tendrils. Spores, according to Neil Druckmann, if you listen to the podcast, it's a big plot hole for a TV show. Now you can get away with it in a game because you come to an area, a localised area, where you need to put a mask on because of the spores in the air.
Hold up. Spores.
And you leave that area and you take it off. That's not going to fly in a TV show because it's like, well, that's just silly, and airborne, everybody's going to die. So they took that out of the show. But the tendril thing they've put in is a really cool concept, how the fungus grows underground and they can communicate with each other. You see that in episode 2, and that's a really like horrifying way to put it into the show, really. We knew Joel were going to get played perfectly well by Pedro. Loved Nico Parker. I had really high hopes for Bella Ramsey in this, and she's absolutely shut the haters up within 2 episodes. All that hate's gone quiet, which I said that in my little video I did on the trailer. I knew that were going to happen, and that's just music to my ears basically, because she plays Ellie so well. She's just like her in the game, it's brilliant. But the one actor that I slept on this, and I think a lot of other people did as well, is Gabriel Luna as Tommy. Guys, if you shut your eyes and listen to the game, Gabriel Luna sounds exactly like Tommy.
No cell phone, no radio. Yeah, we're doing great. A minute ago, newsman wouldn't shut up.
No cell phone, no radio. A minute ago, newsman wouldn't shut up.
How do you know?
I credit even Jeffrey Pierce, who plays his voice in the games. It's like commended him on Twitter and that, and it's really good. I think a lot of people slept on Gabriel Luna doing that role, so just another credit to show, really. Shout out to the Reddit user that pointed out the flour theory. Joel and his daughter, they don't eat the pancakes, you know, the next door neighbour's offering them biscuits they don't eat, the cookies they don't eat, they were going to get a cake they don't eat. This has been pointed out by a lot of people, but the guy who pointed that out originally was bang on the money. And obviously in episode 2 you see the Indonesia thing, how it came from the flour plant, and Jakarta's got the biggest flour mill in the world. They definitely put those little bits and pieces in there with the food to show that they avoided the infection on outbreak day. They put that horror element straight in, works a treat. Again, Nico Parker's just playing Sarah brilliantly, and then all that leads up to the sat on the sofa. That's kind of where the game starts, and that for this episode is probably my favourite parallel of the game, which I'll put up on the screen. Each episode I'm going to tell you my favourite parallel. That one where they sat on the sofa and she's giving it all the you know, where did you get the money for this? Oh, I sell hardcore drugs. That's definitely my favourite parallel for episode 1.
Here,
What's this?
your birthday?
It's nice, but I...
Did you?
What?
I don't hear anything.
That was lame. You're lame.
Yeah, I know. Where'd you get the money for this?
Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs.
Oh, good. You started helping out with the mortgage then.
Outbreak Day, when it all kicks off, they've shot it perfectly. It's beautifully done. The plane crash, it gives you a little bit of a feint, thinking the car's going to hit him because the car hits him in the game. So it kind of shows that, but it's not that. So it's like, I saw that one. That scene, you just know with the new people watching the show, hits right there for fans again. Hits right there for the new followers, which I think's awesome that all new people are getting to witness this story.
My daughter's hurt. Her ankle.
Stop right there. I got 2 civilians by the river, one of them injured.
And that just sets it up for the 20 years later as it jumps across. And yeah, perfect start to episode 1. Introducing Boston straight away, and the scenes 20 years later with a kid walking in, and now they've got to kill him because he's got the virus. Sets it up just nice. And if you listen to the official HBO podcast on this, when Joel throws the child's body into the fire, they were going to finish episode 1 right there, but instead they turned it into an 120-minute episode. They cut it down from 10 episodes to 9 because Neil Druckmann were really concerned about finishing it right there, because they just had the death of Sarah, then they had the death of this other kid, and they thought if they finishes the episode there, that might put a lot of people off coming back to the show. Look, episode 1, you just killed 2 children and then it ends. They were really concerned about that, and that's why they turned it into 1 long episode and cut it down from 10. I was a big fan of Anna Torv when she did Mindhunter, and there were a few mixed reactions to Anna Torv's portrayal of Tess in this, but I think she's brilliant. I think she's really brutal. She puts Joel in his place, and I think character-wise, she really does a good job of this. And episode 2, it's quite an emotional scene when she dies and how she's catching the virus out. When she tells Joel that she didn't ask him to feel the way she does, I think that hit quite hard with the viewers and everything. It's a really good touch. Just the thing they've changed up from the game is the fact that Joel's already looking for Tommy. In the game he's not, and it turns out he just needs to try and get to Tommy because of the Ellie situation. But it's quite cool that they've put that in, that he's looking out to get to Tommy. He needs to get a battery for a truck, and a nice little touch on the map, another Easter egg. He's looking at the map and having a drink, and it's got the music from Factions, which were the multiplayer experience they brought out for The Last of Us Part 1. Another one for the fans, like new viewers aren't going to notice things like that, but there's so much in this that the fans are going to notice from the game. So many Easter eggs, and I think that's great. Which leads up to my favourite line of episode 1.
If you're feeling lost,
Tell me to look for the light and I'll break your jaw.
You always see the slogan for the Fireflies, and like Joel in this is clearly like, I'm not listening to that crap. And of course when they finally meet Ellie, Joel's dismissive of her straight away, just like you'd expect from the game.
Asshole.
Went down a little bit differently to the game because it's actually Tess herself that kills Robert, but this time it showed you that they've had a bit of an altercation with the Fireflies because of the dodgy trading they're doing, like with the car battery and whatnot. Shows you Robert in the same kind of light as it does in the game, but they've just turned that one a little bit around in this. But really well executed, definitely. So it brings episode 1 to a dramatic end when they hit the outskirts of the quarantine zone. It shows you the buildings, and you can see a little clicker if you look closely in the corner. When we say just like the game, that's just like the game with the buildings. Then of course we're moving to episode 2, and the start of episode 2 in Indonesia, I think it's absolutely fantastic again. And then this is the moment when you know HBO's got hold of this programme and they pull out all the stops. The scenes in this episode are unreal, and I can only imagine what they're going to look like in the coming episodes. But you see the buildings when Ellie comes out, and the roads, and the apocalyptic look how Boston's been bombed. It just looks absolutely stunning. Compared to the game, the hotel scene comes a lot earlier. because that's later on in Pittsburgh in the game, but they put it in this bit, and that's actually a set, and the set design is unreal, isn't it? I mean, we're talking, what, a 2-minute scene, and the set's unbelievable. Got that character building with Ellie and Joel, and she's just being really sarcastic, saying she learned things in circus, and Joel's making fun of her about you didn't even go to school, and as a fan of the game, you just know what's building up with the relationship there, and they're pulling those parts of it off really well with that that dismissive friendship, if you would, you know.
Oh, I thought you went to school.
It's a really shitty one.
That scene in the museum, all the fans were waiting for to see how the clickers were going to look. And they look amazing. They've got that horror element down. Those actors that were playing the clickers, I mean, shout out to those guys. They've got the movement and everything absolutely spot on, and it was quite horrifying to watch. And the one thing I loved most about that scene was the fact that the Med, Tess and Joel look like real people. Like in the game, obviously it's built in a way that you're fighting a lot of enemies because it's a game. So, you know, you start going through scenes, you might kill 10, 20 enemies sometimes. But they've got 2 clickers in the museum, and they're struggling, and Joel's already got a hurt hand, and they're falling, and they're missing them when they shoot, and they're having a real hard time of it, and it just makes it more realistic and that more real feel that they're just real people really struggling, and I thought that was amazing how they executed that. And that brings me on to episode 2. My favourite parallel to the game is when they're looking over Boston to the Capitol building, and he asks Ellie, is this everything you expected? And she says, you can't deny that view. That's my favourite parallel in this one to the game. I think that's great.
So is that everything you hoped for?
Jury's still out. But man, you can't deny that view.
And then of course you've got that finale in episode 2, which I knew as a fan, I just knew that episode was going to end there. They get to the Capitol building, a little bit different from the game, because in the game they're getting pursued by Fedra at that point, and it's the actual Fedra soldiers that storm the building. But it didn't really run correctly with how the story was running on TV. Neil Druckmann again confirmed that. Quite an emotional scene between Tess and Joel. Again, Anna Torv coming to her own right there, showing the bite and how she felt for Joel, and then the big climactic scene when she pours out the petrol and the grenades. And then there were that kiss. They made it look great. I was quite surprised that they did that actually, and how she was holding the lighter and she couldn't light it, making for a climatic ending. The production team asked Neil Druckmann, would he like a logo on the lighter, and he took the opportunity straight away to copy the one from the Uncharted series. It's only major fans of those games had noticed that kind of thing, to be fair. But yeah, climatic ending to episode 2, and it ended where you got Ellie on her own, Joel still dismissing her, just walks away, and it's using music from The Last of Us Part 2 on the end scene. And yeah, it just sets it up lovely for episode 3 when they're going to try and head to Frank and Bill's. So yeah guys, I'm in 2 minds whether to do these videos again. I mean, I did the video for the trailer, and it got quite a good response, a lot bigger response than I expected actually. A few people reached out to me who were fans of the game and the show as well, and I thought, you know, I've got my room set up now, so I thought I'd try it. Thanks again for watching guys. I've really enjoyed the first 2 parts of The Last of Us. Even my wife's watching it and she's enjoying it. It's absolutely great. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, give it a like, drop your comments, and with that being said, I shall see you in the next one. Take care.